It's another exciting moment, to talk sports right here on the sidelines. And thank you so much to all our subscribers. But today we're taking a journey into another, type of sports away from football, basketball. Today we're talking NFL, the prospects, the potentials, the buzz about the upcoming draft, and also, the upcoming season. I'm not going to be doing this alone, ladies and gentlemen. I have, of course, Mr. Scott, all the way from Washington, DC, someone who is, well grounded in the knowledge of NFL. He has actually played, from college and also high school. He is someone who has, fallen in love with the game and has a broad knowledge about it. He'll be talking to us about the upcoming draft and combines, a little bit of an insightful, perspective to, what he feels the upcoming season holds for the NFL, and also the potentials, the talents that we are expecting to see in the draft. I'm here to welcome Mr. Scott all the way from Washington. Nice to have you join us on the sidelines.
Thank you, Ottobon. Thanks for having me on Sidelines. It's really good. Yes, this is a very exciting time for a lot of young men who are going into the who are prospective football players going into the NFL. Some hearts may be broken, some dreams may be made, but it's a very exciting time. And it's also nice for us who are American football fans, who can kind of look at the prospects and see and try to guess where they're going to go, based on team wants and skill sets. So
talking about the upcoming, season, I would love us to, just for the audience, that we have in this part of the world who really do not understand how the NFL works. I would really love us to start from, talking about what is the NFL Combine and also the draft.
The NFL Combine is basically a showcase of so you have college football, which is like the semi-professional league for American football in American football. And then you have the NFL, which is the professional league. Before you go there, you have to go and test in the combine. So the combine is the ability for the athletes in the semi-professional league from college to go and showcase their skills and also interact with NFL executive and scouts before they go on to the NFL draft, right? So some of the purpose of actually going into the combine is, like I said, is to show your skill, to get measurements, to do medical tests, and also show your athletic prowess, and also interact with those scouts and executives who might be picking you in the NFL draft. So that's the purpose of it. And I think the first official NFL Combine, even though athletes were being tested before that by teams, the first official NFL Combine was in 1982, I believe, and it's been going strong ever since.
All right, and I'm sure our audience are already, very much interested as to finding more about, the NFL after this conversation. Now that brings us to, talking about the test, because I know you mentioned about, this is something that, gets to test players, potential prospects who would join, their future NFL teams. Now let's talk about the specific tests and evaluations, that are carried out in the combines.
So the athletic tests, first, one of the things they do is they take your measurements. They see how big you are in size, your arm length, your height, your weight, and all that stuff. They want to get that officially. But one of the most popular athletic tests is the 40-yard dash. Depending on your position, if you're in a skilled position, it will matter more. If you're not in a skilled position, it won't matter as much. But the 40-yard dash tests your front line speed and burst, how fast you are in a straight line. That's what they want to see with the 40-yard dash. They have the 3-cone drill, which tests your agility. Then the 20-yard shuttle, which also tests your agility, but also your side-to-side quickness, okay? And again, depending on what position, that may matter more for you than in other situations. Then they also check your explosiveness through the broad jump and also the vertical jump. So the broad jump sees how it's like a different form of long jump. Long jump from the Olympics, right?
Yes.
So instead
Yeah.
of having a running start, you just stand in one place and then you just jump, right? It's exact same form and technique, except you don't run. That's the broad jump. They want to see how explosive you are with that. And then the vertical jump, which is just a vertical jump to see how high you can jump in one place, right? So that's like, basketball players do that as well to see how high they can jump in one place. That's to check your explosion. A lot of these things, these athletic tests, because football is a very explosive, high intensity game in short bursts, right? They want to see how your explosiveness is. Another one that they do is when they're testing your 40-yard dash, they're also testing your 10-yard split. You understand? Because football, like I said, is is a game of like inches, and they want to measure that explosion in short spaces. Then finally, they test your raw strength with the bench, right? A lot of athletes don't do this anymore because they'll say, "Oh, my tape shows you how strong I am." Also, a lot of athletes decide not to do the 40 if it doesn't matter to their position as much. But these are the athletic tests that they want to check on you. The next test they're looking at is your medical, is they're doing medical tests. Obviously, just like in any sport, like in football or soccer, right? Before
Yes.
somebody takes somebody to another league, before Chelsea takes a player, they do a medical test with them, right? Because they want to see what the problems might be with this person if they're buying if they're signing themselves into some kind of bad deal or whatever or whatnot. It's important to have the medical test. So, and then they also look at that's why they do the height, weight measurement and all those other things. Then the next one is they do the mental evaluation. They do that through a series of interviews, right? So with these mental evaluations and interviews, they want to obviously you have position coaches there and scouts asking the athletes individually what specifically, like they want to see what their knowledge is and their thought process of why they make certain decisions when they play, and they want to see what their knowledge of the position is, right? Another test, and this is very important for positions where you have to think very quickly, right? Like if you're a quarterback, running backs, they don't interview also for running backs is more of their like passion for the game, and then also they can also test their intelligence, but they're more interested in the passion for the game. For quarterbacks, they want to see how fast you can think and how fast you process, right? And how easy it is for you as a quarterback to memorize plays because you have to know all the plays, sometimes even the defensive plays of other teams, and you have to know all the offensive plays. So it really matters a lot. And then sometimes they do a test called the Wonderlic test, which is also another mental evaluation test. It tests like IQ in certain instances. And then also they want to see your psychological makeup. They want to know what your psychological makeup is. Do you break under pressure? What kind of pressure situations can you cope in? And then if they put you under certain pressure situations, how do they change your thinking to better make you how do they change your thinking during that period to better make you more adaptable for certain high pressure situations? So these are the things that they want to know, right? Psychological makeup, how you think, your passion for the game, and also your ability to retain information when it comes to your position or or in general.
All right, so before we move over to talking about the draft and what the combine is made of,
Mhm.
we have a question from one of our audiences right here
Mhm.
who really wants to know amongst the positions from the quarterback, running back, fullbacks, which of them actually goes through the most intense exercise and test during the combines? Is it the running back or the quarterback?
That's an interesting question. I think it's linemen, defensive players, and skilled players that go through a lot more rigorous tests. You understand? Because the quarterbacks, what they do is their own testing is more about the interview. They don't need to do the athletic tests, right? They need to do the interview and they need to throw, really.
No.
Now, if they want to put themselves above others to show how athletic they are, they will go and do those other tests, maybe to boost their stock, right, in the draft. So like you have quarterbacks who still do the 40-yard dash to show you how athletic they are. You understand? And that they bring more to the table than just their intellect. They're also very athletic. So, but I think that it's more rigorous for those positions that I said before because they have to do those athletic and physical testing.
All
You
right. So
understand?
now
Yeah.
let's talk about who attends the combines,
Mhm.
because it is an event, and I'm sure the audience would be very much interested to finding out who actually attends the combine.
Obviously, the people who attend the combines are the prospects, right? If you want to be drafted, you have to, attend the combine. The NFL team scouts must attend the combines. The media, the sports media will attend the combines, and also the medical teams, right? Who are hired by the combine or by other teams, by individual teams, will come to the NFL combine to do work. But the people who have to be there are all these four that I listed: the prospects, the scouts, the GMs of the teams, right? The medical teams and the sports media so that they can cover the events.
We've talked about the prospects and the scouts. Let's talk about the coaches, and
Mhm.
let's find out more what the coaches really look forward to, in different positions.
Individual coaches, they look for a lot of things, but generally, coaches look for different things in different positions because, football is very specialized, right? It's not free flowing like soccer and or football and rugby, right? Where everybody can play defense and offense at the same time. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot more specialized. So, for example, for a an offensive lineman, right? And you know that there's three types of offensive linemen. There's the center, there's the guard, and there's the tackle. And they have different body types in a sense, and they require kind of different skill sets. Now, there are linemen that can play all those different positions, right? In the
Okay.
NFL. That's not a problem. But essentially, this is what coaches who are looking at the offensive line will look for, and their specific things. They want to look at what that because it's a game of inches, they want to see what your 5 yards to 10 yard burst is. Okay. Are you quick off the snap? Right. Are you quick off the snap? They need your reaction time to be incredible. Okay. And then how strong are you? Right. There's what do you call it? There's strength while you play, and there's just raw strength, right? Like what you bench or whatever. You understand? But they want to see both how you play and then your raw strength in the gym. Your size and weight matters a lot. The average lineman should be about 6'2", 6'3", and 300 pounds, right? Offensive linemen. They should be big, 300 pounds and above. You understand? Because I don't know what the statistic is, but I'm guaranteeing you the NFL, the average lineman is above 300 pounds. Okay, so you need to be at least 300 pounds. What's your arm size and your arm length? Now, these two things matter more for tackles. Okay,
Okay.
tackles, their arm length especially, because what happens is tackles are the guys at the end of the offensive line, and they are blocking the quarterback from being sacked from the edges, right? And the guys who come from the edges are very big, fast guys with long arms as well. So your arm length, your ability to keep them away from the quarterback at the tackle position is important. Another thing that they look for is your side to side lateral quickness, right? This again is also very important for tackles. You understand? Not so much for guards and centers, but for tackles, because tackles, you need to be able, because those guys from the edge are very fast and can be very fast, you need to be able to move back quickly. You understand what I'm saying? So that's that. And then what they look at for from centers is intelligence, processing, awareness, right? Because the center is the guy who snaps the ball to the quarterback. And the center is sort of like the de facto eyes and ears and leader of the offensive line. So he has to be able to communicate very much to the other guys to let them know, hey guys, there's a pass. I see this blitz coming. Because when they start, the center is always looking up, right? Before he hikes the ball. He's always looking up. So he's observing things that are going on defense. Maybe they're doing stunts or whatever. So your center has to be intelligent, has to process information quickly, and has to be very aware. Then from your guards, you want your guards to be big. It doesn't matter if they have short arms or not. That doesn't matter. You just want it to be big and mean and aggressive. That's what you want from your guards. Big, mean, aggressive, and also strong, right? So you want to see that from your guards. And your centers can be like that too, but what you want more from your centers is the ability to be aware of the situation going on and process things very quickly. You understand?
Yes.
Then for your quarterbacks, you want them to be aware, have incredible processing speed, right? Because they handle the ball the most out of anybody on the team. Okay, because the ball's always snapped to them. They make decisions about where the ball is going to go to. So they have to have good processing speed, good arm strength, good be able to throw the ball accurately. You don't want them throwing the ball to you don't want them throwing the ball anyhow because it won't hit the target. Good height and weight, height and size. So NFL likes its quarterbacks. I would say that a good size for an NFL quarterback to start, it's not written in stone, but a good
Okay.
size is about 6'2" and 110 pounds, which is about 95 kg, right? So if you're
Yeah.
around that size, that's decent NFL quarterback size. I mean, look, they probably wanted you to be taller and bigger. The more, the merrier, but also they don't want you to be too big, so you're totally immobile. Another thing they look at is productivity. How well did you do when you were in university? Did you perform very well? They want to look at that. They also want to look at experience in playing the quarterback position in college, which they feel like people who played just one season as a starter, right? That was the main quarterback for one season as a starter is not enough. They want you to do at least 2 seasons so they know that you've built a lot of experience in that position. Also, did you play a pro style offense? I think when I was speaking to you the other day, I was trying to explain to you that the if you play a pro style offense, it's easier for you to come into the professional league and they don't need to teach you as much, right? But if you
Yeah.
didn't play a pro style offense in college, then they need to start teaching you, and it's going to take more time for you to get involved in the team and playing. So learning a pro style offense is very good. Nowadays, they want quarterbacks to have some mobility. They don't mind pocket passers, but they want mobility, meaning you need to be able to run if somebody's chasing you down to tackle you behind the line of scrimmage. You need to have escapability, and you need to be able to extend plays with your legs. Okay, so that's also an important thing. You don't have to be the fastest guy in the world, but you just have to have those. Then next, the running back. They want you to have good speed and burst and explosiveness. So you have to do well in the explosive tests, which are like the 40-yard dash, broad jump, the vertical. And they're looking at usually for running backs, an acceptable 40-yard dash is like a 4.6. So that would be like running sort of at a pace of 11 seconds to 11.2 seconds in the 100-yard dash. Okay,
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's kind of now you could run faster than that and still run a 4.6 because you pick up acceleration the longer the distance. So don't quote me completely on that, but that if you're running at a 4.6 pace, 11 seconds to 10.9 to 11.12, that's where you would be running. That's the pace you would be running at, right? So a 4.6 is okay. Ideally, they want you at a 4.5. Okay. If you're at a 4.5, that means once you get out of the line of scrimmage, you can hit a home run. What they mean is you can run all the way to the end zone. You have the pace to get pretty far, right? So a 4.5 is ideal speed, but 4.6 is still manageable if you are good at the other things I'm going to list now. Okay. Um,
Okay.
you have good, the ability to break tackles. Either you're elusive at breaking tackles, that means people can't really get their hands on you, or you are just a bowling ball, like you can just smash through people. Do you understand? So you use strength and aggression. Do you understand? To break through tackles, and then you have good contact balance, which means if they hit you, right, you're not just falling on the ground. No, you spin off and you stay. It's kind of like in soccer when they try to tackle you, but they can't really get you. You know how Messi was; they can't really get him. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah, of
saying? They couldn't really get
course.
him. So when they hit you, you have good contact balance. You don't just fall on the ground. Maybe you'll spin off, or you'll stay. You'll find a way to stay. And keep, to stand and keep running. You understand what I'm saying? So that's a
Yes.
good thing to have. Also, obviously, your 10-yard burst, the times they're looking for 10-yard burst from running backs is about 1.75 seconds. And then good agility and side to side speed. That's a positive. Then the next thing is if you have good running vision. So the vision that we're talking about is the ability to see how you're blocking, right? That actually can make up for not being as fast, right? So if you
Okay.
run slower than 4.6, but you have very good, very, very, very good vision, that means your ability to see how the block or what players are going to do before they do it, and then you can make cuts based on that. You will be a great running back. So that one is actually very highly liked. So that's the vision and your ability to pass block. So in today's game, because there's a lot of passing of the football, they need the running backs to be able to pass block. So even if you weren't a good one coming from college, the only way that they're going to have you on the field, right, every down is if you can pass block. If you cannot pass block, you will limit the amount of times you can get on the field, and you won't be a starter. Your ability to catch the ball. Remember, I said that this is a passing league now, so running backs need to pass the ball. What's also kind of important too is your productivity in university. How good were you? But it's not as high because they feel that sometimes systems in college may limit running back productivity. So they can take a chance on you and bring you in if you were not super productive. And also what they look at is and remember this always, because this applies to every other position,
Okay.
less to quarterback, but more to other positions. What was the difficulty of your schedule or the level of the competition in college? That is very important. You can go to a conference, right? In college and in football, they're broken up. These things are broken up into conferences because there's so many teams. You can play in a conference that was not very competitive, which means a lot of the players that were in there, they don't have a lot of NFL bound players. You understand, right?
Yes.
And remember this: that's only about 5 to 10% of the football players from university that graduate, right, actually get into the professional league that are actually drafted. Only about 10%. And I think I'm even high on that. So what level of competition did you do? Were you playing against people who were mainly, in a conference where not a lot of guys were going to go to the NFL? So therefore, it was slightly easier for you to do what you did. You understand? So that's running backs. Wide receivers, they need to see that you're a because your primary job is to catch the ball. They want to see that you're pure, how well you can catch with your hands, right? If you can't catch with
Okay.
your hands, your draft stock is gonna fall, right? You have to be able to catch with your hands even while you're sleeping. Do you understand? So that's very
Yes.
important. And then they want to see your speed in the 40. That matters. They're usually looking at someone who runs. If you're running a 4.55, that's okay. That's an okay speed because they don't want you don't need to be the fastest person in the world, but you need to be fast enough. So if you're running a 4.55, that's an acceptable speed in the NFL, right? What is your route running ability? Now for wide receivers, I think that this part, your route running ability, is just about the number two thing that is the most important, right? How do you
Okay.
run your routes? You will see people in some videos or whatever, some receivers, just because of their route running ability, their pure route running ability, they can get defenders off of them and get open, each time, right? And you cannot understand it. But if you're a very good route runner, you will play in the NFL every time, okay? Then the
Yes.
next thing after that is what's your vertical jump? That's an athletic thing. How high can you jump? That'll just improve your stock. What's your field awareness like? So in case the field awareness is if the play breaks down and your quarterback is in the backfield running for his life, can you get open somewhere on the field that is open, right? Can you make yourself open and then let the quarterback know? How do you have a good sense of field and space, right? So that's your field awareness. Then what was your productivity like in college? And then again, what was your level of competition? Keep saying that. That level of competition is important. It can increase your stock. So again, this one matters. It doesn't matter as much is your height. Most NFL teams want you to be about 6 foot if you're a wide receiver, because most of the
Okay.
cornerbacks now are like 6 foot. So they want you to be about 6 foot. So next position is, let's go to tight ends. First one is I listed out. This is not necessarily a matter of importance, but height and weight is very, very important. How tall are you? How big are you? Okay. They usually want you to be about 6'3" and 240 pounds. If you're lower than 240 pounds, you're too small. Okay. You're
Oh,
too
wow.
small. Yeah, you're too. I'm not joking. So that's like 110 kg. They want you to be at least 110 kg, because if you're lower than that, you're too small. And that's 6'3". If you're lower than 6'3", they'll just be looking at you like, this guy is too short. Okay, and so for tight end, that matters. Your ability to block, right, is very
Yes.
important, because the tight end position is a hybrid position. It's a mixture of an offensive lineman and receiver. Okay, so you need to be able
Okay.
to block, right? Even though these days tight ends are not blocking as well as they used to, because they have specialized tight ends. Oh, I'm a receiver, like example, Kansas City's Travis Kelce, not the greatest blocker. He's mainly a receiving. That's Taylor Swift's boyfriend. He's mainly a receiving tight end, right? He can block, but he's not a great blocker. Okay, he's I would say a below average blocker. He's mainly a receiving tight end. Then the next thing is your ability to catch the ball. You got to catch the ball. Okay, tight ends, that's one of their main things. If you're a good blocker but you have stone hands, they may not even draft you. They'll ask you to just walk on and use you in special teams. Okay, you won't see the field much. Your explosiveness and your speed. So speed also matters, because tight end is becoming more of a skilled position. So you have to be able to run, I think, a good time, the least time, right? You should be able to run at least a 4.75 40-yard dash. That's like running like something similar, like at a pace of 11.45 seconds on in a 100-meter dash. You understand? That's about the
Yes.
pace. I just want to use that as an example. Then you should be able to jump pretty high. So they're usually looking at a vertical of at least 34 inches, 35 inches. And they want you to have good arm length, right? So if you have good arm
Okay.
length, you can grab the ball pretty easily, right, from other people. So they want you to have that. Now let's go to the defensive line. If you're a coach, this is what coaches are looking for the defensive line. Size, they want you to be about 6'2" minimum, and 290 pounds. Okay, that's about 131
Okay.
kg. That size matters. Your burst in a short area, 10-yard burst. Now you got to be faster than the O lineman. Okay, that burst of
Okay.
yours, because you need to be hitting it. You need to be a disruptor. Okay, so they're looking at you running a 1.63, 1.65 in that 10-yard burst. That's fast enough for somebody who's 290 pounds, and that person can be like a hammer, a disruptor. Then next, your ability to disrupt the play in the line of scrimmage. Remember, I said D lineman, your job is to you just they want you to scatter everything. Okay,
Okay.
just make it ugly in that line of scrimmage so the offense can't get any plays done and can't push anybody out. That's what they want you to do. Strength is a big thing. Then productivity in university. But I think this one's actually more important than productivity in university. What was your competition level like? Again, that's big because the higher competition level, the better you'll be able to fit into the pro league. You know, you understand, to the NFL. That's very important. Then edge rusher. There are two types of edge rushers. Edge rushers, there's defensive ends, and then there's the linebackers who become edge rushers. Okay, defensive ends are usually bigger edge rushers, and those guys are usually somewhere around 250 to 270 pounds, right? And they're taller, right? All edge rushers, they want you to be kind of tall, at least 6'2". You can be shorter, but they'd prefer somebody who's at least 6'2". And then if you're an edge rusher who's a linebacker, they want you to be about 245. That's like 105 kg to about 110 kg. You can be bigger, but they don't want you to be shorter than 6'2". All right. Your speed, your burst, 4.75. 4.7 is a good time to have in the 40-yard dash if you're an edge rusher. Sometimes 4.8, they can accept it if you're a defensive end who is an edge rusher, but they like 4.75. Strength, right? Strength to power. That's like how explosive you are when you're pushing forward and you're struggling with people. Then what are they also looking for? They're looking at your 10-yard split. They're looking at a 1.59 10-yard split for that short area burst. Your arm length. If you are an edge, because you're fighting tackles all the time, remember the
Okay.
offensive tackles, you need to have some kind of range. They want you to have, long range. If you have short range, they're not going to play. It's going to work against you. You understand?
Oh,
Because
wow.
the tackles can
Interesting.
keep you at length. You understand? So then also they want to see what your hands technique is like. So there's all these hands techniques that help you get past the tackles. You understand? There's this defensive tackle or defensive player called Aaron Donald, and the guy in his off season, he uses knives to
Oh,
practice how to get
amazing.
past. Yeah, it's crazy. He uses knives to get to practice how to get past the thing and improve his hands movements so he can spin. Some guys do judo during the off season. They do all sorts of crazy stuff to get their hand movements and hand techniques sorted. If you don't have it, they'll want you to improve it when you come into the league, and they'll teach you some hand movements. Okay. The next one was, what was your difficulty of competition in college? Again, very important. Then the next one after that is, what was your productivity like in university? That one won't affect you as much because they can bring you in and you can become productive, right? But the
Okay.
difficulty of competition, very important because that tells, again, like I said, tells them it will be easier for you to fit into the football league if your competition level was higher. Okay. So
Okay.
that also matters. Then we have linebackers who are traditional linebackers. Their job
Okay.
is to shoot the A gap. If I'm a coach, coaches usually look for height and size, height and weight. Usually they like linebackers who are at least 6'1", 6 foot, right? And above. But these days they are getting linebackers who are like 6'3", 6'4". They don't want you to be too small in terms of your weight. You need to be around at least above 225, 26 pounds. That's about 104 kg at least. And then your burst, your speed, your straight line speed. A good speed or a decent speed for a linebacker is 4.6 yards in the 40-yard dash. Your tackling ability is very important as well, because all you're
Okay.
doing is tackling. So they need to see that you're able to tackle. Because of the age of passing, we also are looking at how well, I mean, coaches are looking at how well you can do in pass coverage. So that's also important. Then they look at productivity and then they look at awareness. I mean, those last two, again, like I said, not as terrible, but if you're coming from a very strong conference with high competition level,
Okay.
that does more than those last two. That's college productivity and whatnot. Now, um, cornerbacks need to be fast. Okay, they need you to be fast. So I think that's not the first thing coaches look at. They look at how you play, but the truth is, once they've looked at how you play and they look at that you're okay, they're gonna look at how fast you are because in the NFL, everybody's fast. Okay, so if you're much slower than what they expect you to be, then they can't place you in certain offenses. You can't play certain defenses, right? Or certain styles of play. So for a cornerback, for them to be okay with you, you need to have a speed that is like 4.45. Now, 4.45 in the 40-yard dash is very, very fast. It's what they call kind of elite speed. Do you
Mm,
understand?
okay.
Yeah, if you're not, you can still play in the NFL if you're not running that speed. You just have to be better at so many other things if you're not running that speed. And even if you're running that speed, you still have to be good at some other things. Maybe you won't if you're not the greatest tackler, they will still pick you up. You understand? Because they don't really need cornerbacks to tackle as much, but they need you to be agile and be fast and have great awareness. And then also, what are your ball skills like? Now, if you come in not having incredible ball skills, but you're agile, you're fast, and you have good awareness, they'll
Okay.
teach you those ball skills. They'll get you to start to start getting better at those ball skills. It's worth the kind of like gamble to draft you high, right? And get you and teach you and incentivize you and push you to start using learning how to go after the ball. You understand what I'm saying? Ball
Yeah.
skills are things like playing the ball in the air, always making sure you knock it down, intercepting balls and things like that, right? But if you have the other three, that is awareness, agility, and speed, you will always be able to cover the wide receiver or whichever receiver is coming at you. It's just that if you don't have ball skills, maybe you're a good tackler, or maybe you just shadow the wide receiver very well, and they won't be able to throw to them. The last position I'm gonna say talk on is the safeties, right? So there are two
Yes.
types of safeties. There's the free safety and the strong safety. But the safety's job essentially is to cover the areas that the cornerbacks are not able to cover and cover the positions the cornerbacks are not able to cover, right? So
Okay.
you don't have to be the fastest person in the world, but you should be fast enough, right? So if you're running a 4.58 in the 40-yard dash, which is still pretty fast, right? That's a good time for you to run in the NFL. So coaches will be looking at that. Coaches and scouts will be looking at that. However, what they really want to look at is what your awareness is, because you as a safety have to have a higher awareness than even a
Okay.
cornerback, because you need to be able to cover spaces and be aware of where certain players running routes who are unguarded are going to be. And then even if they're guarded, maybe the defensive player who's guarding him or whatever cannot guard him well. You need to go and cover up that spot. So your awareness is very important. Your tackling ability needs to be above average, right? The reason why
Yeah.
is because the safeties are the last line of defense, right? Once they in the passing game, once they pass the safeties, they're basically going to score a touchdown. You understand, right? So they
Yeah.
always want safeties to be able to tackle, have good tackling fundamentals. Then the next thing is size. If you're a free safety, they want you to be taller. If you're a strong safety, you don't necessarily need to be taller. Okay. But they want you to be a free safety. A good size is 6'1". Okay, for a free safety. But they also like the taller the better. Except you don't want to be up to 6'5". 6'1" to 6'4" is a good safety size. Then also the difficulty of competition you had in college. That always matters because that's always a thing. And also that matters especially for the cornerbacks, right? Because the better competition you played against in college will ease you in much better when you get into university and when you get into the professional league. You understand?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. Another thing that would love to know, I'm sure the audience would love to know, is can you tell us about the draft order and what each team needs at this point?
The teams that get the number one or the top picks are the ones who did the worst the year before, right? So the idea is to try to even things out for them. So in the 2025 draft, the team that has the number one pick is the Tennessee Titans. They were 3-14, and their needs is they need a quarterback like yesterday. They need an edge rusher and they need a wide receiver. The number two pick is the Cleveland Browns. They're also 3-14. They need a quarterback and they need a wide receiver. And then the number three pick is the New York Giants. They were also 3-14. They need a quarterback, offensive lineman, and edge rusher. The number four pick is the New England Patriots. They were 4-13, and they need an O lineman and they need a wide receiver and a tight end. Jacksonville Jaguars will have the number five pick. They need a D tackle and they need a cornerback. The number six pick is the Las Vegas Raiders. They were 4-13. They need O linemen, wide receivers, and running backs. Number seven was the New York Jets. They were 5-12. They need an offensive tackle, a tight end, and a wide receiver. The Panthers of Carolina have the number eight pick. They need an edge rusher and a linebacker. The number nine pick is for the New Orleans Saints. They were also 5-12. They need a quarterback like immediately, and they need a D tackle and an edge rusher. Number 10th pick is for the Chicago Bears. They were 5-12. They need an edge rusher, a running back, and a tight end. Number 11 is the San Francisco 49ers. They need a D tackle, edge rusher, O lineman, and they also might need a running back as well. Number 12 pick belongs to the Dallas Cowboys. They need a running back, wide receiver, and a D tackle. Number 13 pick belongs to the Miami Dolphins. They were 8-9. They need an O lineman and a cornerback. The number 14 pick belongs to the Indianapolis Colts. They are 8-9. They need a tight end, an O line, and a linebacker. The number 15th pick is for the Atlanta Falcons. They need an edge rusher and a D tackle. The Arizona Cardinals have the number 16th pick. They need an O lineman, another wide receiver, and they need an edge rusher. The Cincinnati Bengals have the 17th pick, and they need a lot, actually. They need like 5 or 6 positions, and they need to be able to get all these positions with premium players, right? These players have to be top players to fill in what they need. So Cincinnati Bengals, they need maybe 2 O linemen. They need an edge rusher for sure, or a D tackle. They definitely need an additional linebacker, a cornerback, and a safety. Now, the reason why this is the case for them is that they have 2 premier wide receivers, right? Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And their quarterback, Joe Burrow, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Joe Burrow pressed the team to keep those 2 guys because T. Higgins would have gone to free agency, and a team that needed a wide receiver would have got a premium wide receiver in T. Higgins. But Joe Burrow insisted, because he wanted to keep the team together, that they pick him. Now, the problem is with that, they can't pay other players, so they have to go to the draft where it's cheaper to get players to go and get all their needs. And their defense was not very good last year, and their O-line was not very good last year. So they have all these positions to fill, and they can't make mistakes on any of them. I just wanted to point that out. So next team is 18th, Seattle Seahawks. They need a guard, wide receiver, and a tight end. Then the 19th pick is for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were 10-7. They need a linebacker and a cornerback. The 20th pick is for the Denver Broncos. They need a running back, wide receiver, and a cornerback. The Pittsburgh Steelers have the 21st pick. They were 10-7 last year. They need a quarterback in this draft and immediately. They have had all this saga with Aaron Rodgers, but I'll mention that like a little bit later on. And then they need a quarterback, an O lineman, and a D lineman, right? The 22nd pick belongs to the Los Angeles Chargers. They were 11-6. They need a tight end, a wide receiver, and a D tackle. The Green Bay Packers were 11-6. They need a cornerback, wide receiver, and an edge rusher. The 24th pick belongs to the Minnesota Vikings. They need a safety, a D tackle, a cornerback. The Houston Rockets own the 25th pick. They need an O lineman, a wide receiver. The Los Angeles Rams on the 26th pick, they need a safety and an offensive tackle. The Baltimore Ravens on the 27th pick, they were 12-5. They need a guard, a safety, and an edge. Okay. The 28th pick belongs to the Detroit Lions. They were 15-2. They need an edge, a guard, and a D tackle. The 29th pick belongs to the Washington Commanders. They were 12-5. They need an edge, an O lineman, and a wide receiver. The Buffalo Bills were 13-4. They need a D tackle, an edge, a wide receiver, and possibly a safety. The Kansas City Chiefs, they were 15-2, and they were runners-up in the Super Bowl last year. They need an offensive tackle. They need a D tackle. They might need an edge, and they can always get more receivers in the draft because this wide receiver class has some, has deep receiver class they have good receivers till about the third round. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, who won the Super Bowl, have the last pick in the first round at 32, and they needed an edge and a D tackle and maybe a wide receiver. I mean, I think that the Eagles are pretty stacked. They don't need much more, but they can always add, good players on there. Okay. So that's that one. Yeah.
All right. So before we go into the player rankings, which is another important aspect of getting to understand the NFL draft, I would love to ask this questions. Are there major stories around these players the audience would love to know?
I'll say a couple of stories. I don't want to get too long into it. For the stories that are pretty big, right? One of the major stories of this draft is Shedeur Sanders, okay, and where he's going to go. Shedeur Sanders is the son of the #1 Hall of Fame defensive back who ever played in the NFL, Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was an athletic phenom, right? He played baseball and American football in the same season, and he played both sides of the ball also in American football. So he played receiver sometimes, and he played DB sometimes. He also went and was a punt returner, okay? And he's known as the #1 punt returner. He has the highest number of punt return touchdowns, I think. I think return touchdowns ever in the league, right? With like 19 touchdowns returned, you understand, ever. So he's an athletic phenom. So one of the key things here is that with Shedeur Sanders, I mean, he is athletic to a certain degree, but he's nowhere near his dad. So his dad ran like a 4.2 in the 40-yard dash back in the day, okay? Which is like, and he said he could have, he won I think he won the national championship in the 100-meter relay with his university's, what do you call it? 100-meter relay team. You understand? I think he played baseball and also ran track at the same time. Deion Sanders was an amazing athlete, amazing player. So he ran a 4.2 something, right? Back in the day. We don't think Shedeur runs that speed at all, but in his position, he doesn't need to run that because Shedeur is a quarterback. His father was a defensive back, right? which is he was a cornerback specifically, a shutdown corner, one of the best ever, right? If not the best. Okay. He was a
Okay.
shutdown corner. When they say shutdown, which means no fly zone, no ball is going to go here. You're not going to, throw any ball to this guy. I mean, or you want that ball picked off or you want an incompletion. Okay. So
Okay.
Deion Sanders was an amazing DB, but it's a different position. So Deion also coached his son Shador from high school into college, into
Oh,
university.
okay.
So he was his coach in high school, I think in his last 2 years of high school. And then he was also his coach in Colorado, in Jackson State, and Colorado University. So Shador has been playing quarterback. Now, here, let me say some of the key things people like about Shador. Shador's heartbeat does not go above a certain level under any pressure. So he's very cool under pressure. Okay. He's tough. Okay. And he's very accurate and he's very good. He doesn't turn over the football anyhow. Right. The things people don't like about him is, I guess his attitude, but I think that that's irrelevant to how he plays the game. Okay. He's very professional. I think he's a very professional guy. One of the spots that he's supposed to have gone at is where the Giants have the number 3 pick because they said that at some point in time the Giants were looking for quarterbacks. Well, in the offseason, the Giants went and got Russell Wilson and another veteran quarterback to fill their quarterback room. So they are not in a hurry. They're not shopping hungry. Okay. So if they want to take Shador, it's because they see Shador as a can't miss prospect. But people are saying that Shador in this class is not a can't miss prospect. And picking him at pick number 3 will be picking him way too high. And to be honest with you, I kind of agree. He is a very good quarterback, right? He's actually going to be a good professional. I see him being a starter immediately, but I think picking him at pick number 3 is meaning that you're looking at a potential Hall of Famer, right? Which he may end up being, we don't know, but
Okay.
what based on evaluations, people don't really see that in him. So that's one of the stories that has a little bit of drama is where Shador is going to go. The other one is a guy called Tetro McMillan. Tetro McMillan is a wide receiver from Arizona. He's very good. The issue is people have complaints about if he's worth the pick that he's at right now because okay, he's ranked number 10 and that ranking is projecting that he's supposed to be taken by a team somewhere in between 8 and 15. Some people don't rank him that high because they just feel like he's not as athletically gifted as even though he has good breakaway speed, right? They don't think he's as athletically gifted as picking him that high. You understand? Would kind of suggest. So they think that he should be going somewhere at the lower part of the first round and the beginning of the second round. Okay, so they feel like he's ranked too high. To be honest with you, I mean, I know some players care about where they're drafted. A lot of players don't really care that much where they're drafted in the first round. What happens is if you're a player and you're drafted in the first round, it just means your money is the money they give you is a lot more, right? So maybe they give you a $5 million contract or a $6 million contract. I think it's like an average of like 10 million for first rounders, right? So if you come in as a first rounder, your first rookie contract is $10 million, right? A year, right? Versus if you're in the second round, you don't get $10 million. I don't know what it is. I think it's like 3 or 4, and then each round lower. If you're in the seventh round, you're lucky if you get about $1 million a year for a contract, right? But that's not
Yeah.
the point because here's the thing, right? If you're really good, you will get that big contract eventually. You understand what I'm saying? So, and
Okay.
if a team sees that you're really good and they really want to keep you, rookie contracts are 4 years, right? 4 years on average, maybe 5 years. But what they do is the way NFL contracts are done, the 5th-year option is a window and opportunity to get off the contract. Do you understand? So they have the opportunity, the teams have the ability to either take that 5th year or not take the 5th year. So really you're looking at 4 years, okay? So if you're a good player and you're a good pick, even if you're picked 5th round, if you are able to show your worth in 2 years and you become like a starter or a star or whatever, like Joe Burrow, the guy I was talking about with Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm going to mention that in a second, he got his new deal after 2 years. Do you understand? Because they were like, no, this is our quarterback of the future. And then they gave him guaranteed money for like, I think, is it 200 and something $million, for like 4 years or something like that. Because he showed that he was a premier player. You understand? Now, it doesn't happen for everybody, and it takes some people a little bit longer to show that they're premier players, but that's what it is. Now, the other thing, there's one more thing. I want to go back to Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals. This is going to be funny to see their draft. I'm very, very, a lot of people are curious to see how they drafted because they did something in free agency, which was unlike them. They gave all their money to these two premier players, which is T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, who are exceptional wide receivers, and they make the team better. But the thing about it is you then don't have enough money to go and pay anybody else. So you can't make 1 ounce of mistake in the draft. And guess what? The Cincinnati Bengals, I think, have only 5 or 6 picks in the draft. 5 picks. That's too short less of everybody else. You understand? Some teams have 10 picks because some team might have 2 second or third round picks because of a deal that they made or a player that they traded. But the Cincinnati Bengals have 5 picks. That's 2 less than the full rounds. There's 7 rounds, right? So they can only pick 5 players. So they have to be exceptional at the players they pick. If they don't get 4 good players in this draft, I don't know. It's going to be a bad year for them. You understand? But they seem to think that, look, we can rest our laurels on those 2 players, and they may be right. You understand? Because those guys make them better. So they decided to take that gamble. I would say another, not so much of a drama, but it's just curious because everybody likes seeing what the Dallas Cowboys will do because their owner, Jerry Jones, is a very eccentric owner who does some strange things when it comes to making his team better, and has done strange things in the last few years when it comes to making his team better. So everybody wants to see if the Cowboys will get a running back, which is what they need. Okay. Some people have also said, oh no, let them get a wide receiver. That's also more what's needed because they have CeeDee Lamb, who's an exceptional wide receiver on one end. They need to get another wide receiver that will kind of complement him. But also, I personally think that if they get a very good running back, and there are plenty of them, this draft has the best running back class prospectively ever. You won't know until after 2 seasons, but it seems like they have the best running back class, and the running back class is very deep this year. So those are some of the stories that are surrounding, this draft. And I think there are more, but I think these are some of the main ones.
Shout out to my